feel is your responsibility to the hip hop culture?
To be true to myself, really. I think my responsibility is to have fun, because I think a lot of times we get caught up in the business and, like I said, with numbers, and I like to have fun, and I like when people see that I am having fun and enjoying what I'm doing. And, that's important because that's what attracted me to it. Those cats, even the gangster cats from back then, all looked like they were having fun.
Yeah.
So, as stressful as this business is, when you're actually making your music, you gotta look like you're having fun and doing what you want to do.
No matter what career you're in or what your path is, sometimes we get lost in the hustle and the bustle, and we forget about why we initially started that journey.
Exactly, and it happened to me. It happens to everybody,
right.
I let the music business mess me up as a musician, and it took me 4 years to recover.
Right.
That's just what happened.
One of the things we wanted to talk to you about was your book, Root for the Villain. You talk about some of the successes, things that you've gone through, but what was your actual inspiration? Why did you have to write this particular book?
A couple of reasons. One of them was, like I said, my grandfather. His book was never published. My dad and uncle tried to get it published, couldn't get it published. And the family, we always wanted someone to be a musician, and I did it, and somebody to write a book, and I was like, I want to do it. But I was also working in a high school at the time in the hood, and everybody in the school thought they were going to be a rapper, ball player, and I was like, well, there's never been a book talking about the reality of the music business and what the average artist goes through, because superstars get book deals. So you hear about LL, DMX, a lot of the famous people write books, and usually their struggles at the beginning. They come from poverty, they go through all this crap, they eventually get to the top, and now they have a nice fat house in LA, and they're married, they got kids, everything is great. Most musicians I know, it's a constant struggle. You might not get where you want to get. You have a detour in a 9 to 5, you come back, you're doing, low-paying jobs on the side, you're hustling and everything, you're doing tours on Greyhound, on buses, shows, 5 people show up. I wanted to make it funny to make it readable, so it's not a downer. Like, I wanted to laugh at some of the stuff to make people entertained and be like, okay, this is going to be an enjoyable read. But I wanted to put that truth out there that, 98% of the people who are artists will be going through what I went through before they go through what Jay-Z went through. So I felt like with all those kids walking around, none of them read my book, I'm sure, but it just made me want to put that out there. You have to really love what you do, because there's no guarantees, and there's so many factors play in whether you really quote unquote make it or not. So I wanted to put that out there for other people, and I was going through so much, and I just felt like I wanted to express it, like getting all your albums get destroyed by your distributor, you get dropped by your digital distributor, they're right back to Wikipedia. All this stuff happened in 3 days. And I made it funny. I put a funny twist on it. Because people would always email me even after I was, even when I took a long break and wasn't making music, people were like, oh, you got mad talent, you should be out there, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, well, I got to pay some bills right now, so I'm working here. People don't understand it until you explain it to them. People don't really know, because most artists have such egos, they don't want people to know, my last album sold 200 copies. Like, their egos are fragile, so I was like, at that point, I wasn't even making music, so I didn't care. So I was like, I'll talk about how I sold 14 copies in the first month of one of my records. I'll put that out there because it happens.
I thought that was hilarious, and you're right. The tone of the book, it makes it more lighter, that it can happen, but you'll be okay.
Yeah, because tons of musicians get strung out. You hear about it all the time. They wind up on drugs. They wind up messed up because it's the ego. When you're good at something, whether it's playing ball, whether it's music, whether it's art, when you're good at something and people keep telling you you're good at it, but then you don't see the financial rewards, things fizzle out. They don't your ego can't take it, because now it's like, okay, what do I do? Go get a regular job? Like, I haven't had a regular job in 11 years. Like, you just feel like lost.
Jay, how do we continue to be or serve to be gatekeepers of the culture? I think that's what we ultimately are positioning ourselves to be. What in particular do you think is necessary for us to be gatekeepers of the culture?
I think discussion.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to, I'm not going to say his name, but I was talking to a legendary hip-hop cat over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, like,
man, you ain't gonna give us some names?
Really? Not on it. Because his whole thing was being anonymous about, not about this, but just about that issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking, and I did an article about the generation gap on Ego Trip last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it got a lot of attention. Like, it went viral, and he read it. He was like, yo, I feel what you're saying. He's like, but I'm not trying to touch that conversation because it's a can of worms that you just can't open.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, because whenever you read that Common versus Drake, Ice-T versus Soulja Boy, Pete Rock versus Big Fiasco, when you go into the comments on the articles, everything has to deal with age. Oh, he's old, he's washed up, oh, he's one of these new dudes with a mohawk who dresses in skinny jeans. You know, everything comes back to money and age. So,
right.
You know, it's hard to be a gatekeeper when everything is about money and age. Like, old versus new is the knee-jerk reaction everybody has in hip-hop. So it's difficult to be a gatekeeper. I like to keep discussion open, but instead of name-calling, like, just talk about the stuff. That's why I wrote that article. Like, I wasn't dissing anybody. You know, it was just, I wrote the article just to say, like, it's apples and oranges. You know, like, when I was in the 7th grade, you know, an older dude was like, you need to check out Spoonie G. Now, this is 1989, 90. Even though, you know, we have our judgments about where the music is now, we were kind of in the same position. You know, like, the old versus new thing has always been there for not even just music, but with everything, every generation. So, you know, while I like, even when I was teaching courses, I would always try to do history. I would always try to, like, make sure kids were aware stuff from. You know, so they talk about and J. Cole dissing each other. So I pulled up No Vaseline. I pulled up the bitch and this records of the past, Dre Day. You know, and showed them, you know, how the dissing, you know, where it started, the Roxanne stuff. Like, we went way back.
Right.
To hear No Vaseline and really get it, you have to know what Jerry Heller's role was in managing NWA.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that till later, because you're always going to have that generational disconnect. With hip-hop, I think hip-hop is so youth-driven that it's always about the now.
Exactly. The next thing, yeah.
The artists themselves will champion history, like someone like Premier, you know, or whatever, will always say, you know, talk about old school guys. But I mean, in general, like the media outlets, it's always about what's new, what's fresh. It's not like jazz where we go back and find out what kind of snare drum Max Roach was using. You know, and in hip hop, when we do that, there are small niche books, like the book about the SP1200, the book about my book. You know, books that go back on that, and the people like us and a few younger people might go back and check it. But in general, it's a youth-driven music, so I don't know about actual gatekeeping, but it's like, I think like the discussions, you know, they're always a slippery slope, because you know, because whenever you feel a disconnect with a newer artist, they're gonna say you're jealous of their money, you're jealous of their, like, hip hop, like jealousy and money versus opinion, the lines are totally gone at this point. Like, you know, you're a hater. Like, to me, a hater is like, I wish death on somebody. But if I don't like, say I don't like Lil Wayne's music, oh, you're a hater, you're mad because you don't have his money. That's where the discussion is going to go nowadays. So I could understand why that guy was like, you know, he wanted to kind of leave it alone. But my whole thing with my article was, it wasn't attacking anybody. It was just like, this is just the way it is. People who show interest in this stuff and get around me, I compare and contrast old and new stuff. You know, I play them old stuff, I play the new stuff. I remember I did a class at my college, and they were talking about how controversial Our Future was. So they were playing one of the videos. It was like, you know, they were saying it was homophobic, it was controversial. And I was like, let me think of a controversial video for my youth that I could show them. So I pulled up Murderer by the Live Squad. Where they're not even going around shooting people, and it's like they're really shooting people in cold blood. MTV wouldn't even play it. And I showed that, and everybody was like, wow, like they're not kidding. I was like, yeah, they weren't kidding. It's just different, you know, like, you know, playing records like Mob Style. To them, they, you know, they might not. Again, those records came out of New York when New York was at its apex for just ground zero for insanity. So that culture inspired those records. Back then, the influences were whatever you heard when you walked outside. So it's, you know, with all these things in perspective, it's hard to really be a gatekeeper, you know, because everybody's got their own thing on it, and you know, with the generation gap, things get a little shaky sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. Last question, where do you keep your cassettes? All right, there we go.
I got some shoeboxes behind back there too.
I know there had to be some more somewhere else.
Oh yeah, no, I got shoebox. I got a flight case, a turntable flight case full of tapes behind the bar back there.
Oh man. Yeah, well, I'm just as bad, so I can't even say anything.
And the release I'm putting out this year is good. I'm gonna make 100 cassettes as a joke, you know, 100 limited cassettes. So, you know, people who want them, go get them. Everybody else, digital. But, you know, I'll always, I have a tape deck in the Volkswagen. So, you know, that's why I bought it. You got a nice car here. I'm like, well, this one has a tape deck.
Yeah. Jay, we want to thank you, man, for being a part of ProfessU, letting us take some of your time and being part of our new movement to talk about some of the positive things happening in hip-hop and pop culture.
Okay, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll definitely touch base again and do this another time. Keep the discussion going.
Okay. Exactly, that's the key.